boys and girls. Today we're going to read chapter 9, A Changing World. I want you to locate that in your table of contents and head to page 78. Hit the next one, please. As we are reading, we're going to be filling this activity page out, 14.2, so you will also need your workbook. I'll give you a few seconds to find that page. Next, please. Okay, so on top of page 78, we have our first image that is right here. This is the image that we have on top of page 78, okay? I want you guys to look at that image and point at it. With your finger, point at that image. Okay, I'm gonna assign each one of your groups, to an image that you're gonna be analyzing, and you're gonna tell me what does the image you're assigned to have to do with the Middle Ages. So Ms. Alvarado, you'll do number 1. Ms. Berry, you'll do number 2. Ms. Simpson, number 3, and Ms. Ramirez, number 4. I'll give you a few seconds to think about what do these images have to do with the Middle Ages. Okay, group number 1. Can you explain to me what does the image of a rat have to do with the Middle Ages?
So we discussed that the Middle Ages was like a long time ago, and they didn't have the cleanliness that we do now, so there was lots of rats roaming around everywhere.
Yes, and there was something else that rised from the rats. It was messy, and there was a lot of rats, but then something rised because of those rats. The rats brought something.
The diseases?
They brought a disease, and it was very common for people to get this disease because it was not clean enough. Group 2?
Yes, so we discussed looking at the hats of the court jesters. They entertained the people who were privileged. Let me finish.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know I clicked that one.
Yeah, they entertained the privileged people.
Yes, thank you. So yes, that signifies that they entertain the privileged people. Group 3?
The other images of castles. So there's a lot of castles during that time.
Yes. So image 3 does represent the castles, and castles were a big part of the Middle Ages because those were the manor houses where most lords lived, and they were not very comfortable. They were really gloomy. And number 4.
So the cross reminds me of whenever we were reading about church, chapter 6, I think, and then they were talking about Christianity. So whenever I see a cross, it reminds me of Christianity.
Yes. So Christianity was a big topic during the Middle Ages because it showed a lot of power. It was the power of the church. And also going back to image number 3 and group number 3, I also forgot to mention that castles were needed for protection. If you remember, castles were inside of a gated area, so they were also made out of stone, so they were pretty much protected. They were more protected than the other homes. And now we're gonna go ahead and start reading page 78 and 79. So I'm gonna read page 78 out loud with you, and I want you guys to point at the first word that I'm gonna start reading. What is the first thing that I'm gonna start reading? After my title, the first thing that I'm gonna read is the Middle Ages lasted. That's the first part that I'm gonna read. So I'm gonna be coming around to see if your finger is on where we're gonna start reading, okay? And also, before we start reading, our question that we're gonna think about as we're reading is, do you think the 100-Year War is a good name for the conflict between England and France? Why or why not? Okay. The Middle Ages lasted for more than 1,000 years. Wars occurred, kings and queens ruled, and a deadly disease killed 1/3 of the population of Europe. People lived their lives, seasons came and went, and history was made. Those days are long gone, but the people who lived long ago have touched our lives. Many ideas, laws, inventions, and important decisions made in the Middle Ages still affect our lives today. So a lot of things that happened during the Middle Ages still affect how we live our lives today. And, We're also gonna be looking at the question. So why do you think the 100-Year War is a good name for this conflict between England and France? So we have not really read about that conflict yet, so we're gonna continue reading. Certain key events help define the Middle Ages. You have already heard about many of them. The 100 Years' War is another. This war began when one man claimed to be the true king of another land. This time it was the English king, Edward III, the great-great-grandson of King John. He claimed to be the rightful king of France. The 100 Years' War was not one war, but rather a series of military encounters that began in 1337 and ended in 1453 CE. Between the battles and sieges were truces and negotiations and periods of peace. Now that we have finished reading this page, we heard about the 100 Years' War. Was the 100 Years' War a war that lasted 100 years?